Well, we can speak now to Dr. Jamal Nazal, who is a FATAH spokesperson and member of the Palestinian National Council. He joins us from Dusseldorf in Germany. Thank you very much indeed for joining us once again, Dr. Nazal. I'd like to start by asking you about that strongly worded joint statement that came from Saudi Arabia and 7 other countries. What did you find striking about the statement, in particular the choices of words, the language that was used in it?
Well, the nuances are the right ones for my ear. Israel is now aware what can come if it goes ahead with these dangerous plans for the West Bank. In the end, I think it will have to choose between normalization with the Arab and Islamic world or going ahead with the confiscation, annexation of land and destroying the livelihood of the Palestinian people. Either peace or no peace. And if we are talking about the border peace, I think the border peace should function as an instrument to peacemaking in the world, not giving a green light to expansionist policies by a right-wing extreme government in Israel.
Right, and in many ways, the Abraham Accords and President Trump's very much known desire to expand them does give you some bargaining power, doesn't it? Because there are countries amongst the 8, for example, Jordan, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, they already have diplomatic relations with Israel. I mean, do you see a day where they could perhaps threaten to cut off those relations?
If I may begin with regard to the UAE, it had already a couple of months ago stated that annexation in the West Bank by Israel would be a red line for Israel to cross, and that would have consequences for the accords signed between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. But what's even more important to us is the position of Saudi Arabia, which has stated clearly that Israel will really have to choose between annexation, destruction of the Palestinian land, and normalization with Saudi Arabia. That's not only a bargaining chip, it's a principled position of Saudi Arabia. And I think it was heard loud and clear in Israel. And I believe that the American administration should take this seriously as well. If they want to make peace, introduce peace into our region, this will be the cornerstone for peacemaking. Creating a Palestinian state is the step that has to be done in order to make peace in the region. And without addressing the Palestinian question, we will never see peace in the Middle East.
Right, and these 8 countries that have issued this statement are, in fact, all of them US allies. Do you get the impression that their message is getting across to the Trump administration?
I hope it is. I hope it is. After all, the name of President Trump is on the Trump plan, and he has linked his prestige in the world with making Israel respect his signature. And I believe he will be keen on respecting his signature. He's capable of doing this, and he will have the opportunity to speak clearly to Mr. Netanyahu, who will be in Washington very soon, about the consequences of the Israeli policies. If Israel goes on with destroying the probabilities of creating a Palestinian state, then what is left to dream for anyone who wants to play a role in peacemaking in the world? The step number one is pressuring Israel into accepting the idea of the Palestinian state, respecting the room that we need to create this state, and putting a halt to all unilateral actions done by Israel to thwart the possibility of creating the Palestinian state.
Right. I mean, Israel continuing to violate international law, continuing to undermine the concept, the idea of a two-state solution. And we do hear, don't we, from senior officials in Israel, talk of blocking or killing the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And from what you're saying and from what we know of efforts made by the Trump administration, I mean, isn't all of this rather insulting, not just to the Palestinians, but also to the Americans and their well-intended efforts to broker peace?
Well, Smotrich yesterday has warned of the possibility of creating another terrorist Arab state in Israel, considering the West Bank as part of Israel. Well, the dangerous changes they are introducing to the system are really far-reaching. They have introduced changes to the land registration, planning, enforcement systems, which will lift the ban on private purchasing of Palestinian land by Israeli settlers, turning Palestine into Israel, treating Palestinian territories as if they were Israel proper. That is a message to the Western countries who always use this mantra of the common values with the State of Israel. I don't know what secret values they are talking about, but if they are talking about democracy, equality, then this is the contrary of what Israel is doing. That is why nobody should be more keen on blocking these Israeli expansionist steps than the Western world itself, because Israel is exposing how hollow these values are when it comes to establishing an apartheid state on the back of the Palestinian people. That is not democracy, that is not equality, and that is not peace. So all those who are talking about common values with Israel, they should choose either the values of apartheid are their own values, or Israel is not a democracy. They have to choose.
Right, and Washington's made it very clear, the Trump administration has been clear that annexation of the West Bank is not going to happen. I think those were President Trump's words a few months ago. But couldn't we argue, looking at what Israel is doing and announcing measures like the measures they have just unveiled, that they're doing this anyway? They're just doing it in the more roundabout way. I mean, death by 1,000 cuts, to use a much-used metaphor.
Well, they have been trying to introduce death on the Palestinian national aspiration for 80 years now. But the dream of independence and statehood is alive and kicking, because it will live as long as we exist in Palestine as a Palestinian people. And we have 7 million Palestinians living between the river and the sea, much as almost as many as there are Israelis. Well, you know that Israel has introduced some changes to this equation when it has killed 10% of the Palestinian population in Gaza. So as the time goes by, Israel is seeking to destroy the foundation of the existence of the Palestinian people. And while time is running out for creating a Palestinian state, the world should be aware of the dangerous Israeli government and the foundation it's built on, that is extremism, racism, and warmongering. I think it's in the interest of the world's major powers to stop Israel from continuing with this very dangerous path to world peace, not only to the existence of the Palestinian people as a people and to the probability of creating a Palestinian state, but to world peace as such.
The United Nations is looking and sounding pretty powerless at the moment. They've got no money. And apart from expressing grave concern about the situation in the West Bank, I mean, is there anything they can do about it?
Well, they could place sanctions on Israel. We have contacts with the members of the UN Security Council, making some consultations of the probability of holding a session to review what Israel is doing now. And I believe the United States should block any further Israeli steps towards annexation. The United States, as you have rightly quoted President Trump, promising that the situation of the West Bank will be okay. He said the West Bank will be okay there, and he said he will not allow annexation to go on. He was asked whether he spoke to Netanyahu, and he responded to the journalist whether I spoke to him or I didn't, but yes, in fact, I did. And I explained to him, that's the words of Mr. Trump, he explained to Mr. Netanyahu that annexation is a no-go. With regard to the United Nations, we know the terms of reference, we know where the Vienna Convention stands on the whole thing, and I think pressure on Israel, especially economic pressure, can be effective in swaying Israel from going on with this dangerous path.
Right, and of course it's been, a couple of years that we've been all around the world. News channels have been covering developments in Gaza, the violence there. You've described the numbers of people who've been killed there. I mean, how damaging do you think this whole chapter of these last 3 or 4 years have been for Israel's standing internationally?
I think Israel has introduced changing to its own identity. The right wing of the Israeli policies has successfully imposed itself on every bit of the Israeli life, politically, socially, and otherwise. And the Israelis got succumbed into the idea of militarism. They have to serve in the army in so many wars. It plays into the hand of the Israeli right to continue with all these conflicts. They brag about being involved in an 8-front war because that serves their agenda of playing on the fear of the Israeli public. They play on the fear of the Israeli public to guarantee that the Israeli public will always elect the right wing of the Israeli policies. This is really dangerous for the identity of Israel, more dangerous for the Palestinian people, and not less dangerous for the entire world. So changes within the Israeli politics are really far-reaching also to the Palestinian people who happens to be occupied by this extremist government, the right-wing government of Israel.
Just lastly, Dr. Nazal, there are elections in Israel later on this year. Are you expecting any change realistically?
Well, yes, I am. You have heard of forming the United Arab List, as they call it, which is an assembly of major Arab parties inside Israel. If they get up to 70% of their electorate, they can deter any right-wing Israeli government from being formed by any right-wing parties. And I hope that they will intensively participate in these elections, and we will see some changes in the Israeli politics. We've seen coalitions in Israel in the 90s who themselves wanted a separation from the Palestinian people, like the government of Rabin. Later, Mr. Barak tried, and even 2008, Mr. Ehud Olmert tried to reach a peace accord with the Palestinian people. And all these attempts were damaged by the right wing of the Israeli politics. And I hope to see a change in the Israeli politics in the way that allows us once again to work together for peace through Palestinian independence.
Okay, so just going back to where we started, what is your message to Washington? What's Fatah's message to the Trump administration with regards to these latest Israeli announcements?
To not allow the Israeli government to go on with its colonial project on the cost of the Palestinian people. Peace in the Middle East requires the creation of a Palestinian independent state. Only then can we really see peace in the Middle East. Without the Palestinian people acquiring their right to self-determination and statehood, we will always be talking about the Arab-Israeli conflict.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Dr. Jamal Nazal, a spokesperson for Fatah. Thank you for your time, sir.